Good morning, everyone. We're still waiting on quite a few people, so we're going to wait just a few minutes while people bing bong in. Okay, let's give it just one more minute and then we'll get started. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. It's good to see everybody. I appreciate you taking the time to meet with us today. This is one of the redbud trees in my front yard. When I was starting this presentation, I thought we need a good, pretty spring picture. And I thought, I've got one on my camera. So we're going with a pink and green theme today. As usual, if your name is not showing up as your screen name on here in Zoom, you can select participants, more, and then rename and put your name on there. I don't think David has gotten here yet. David, you're not here, are you? Okay. We'll come back to his presentation. This is a screenshot that I took on Monday about referrals that have been made to Lasso and Sooner Start. And I would have put PCAP in there too, except there haven't been any referrals to the PCAP Innovation Grant yet. So we can see that 70% of our referrals, of our 109 referrals, have been to Lasso. And leading us off at almost a quarter of those referrals to these two organizations is Oklahoma City C1, followed by Tulsa C1, and then the Parent-Child Center of Tulsa, PCCT. So that's just a glance at the referrals that we've had so far. David, would you like to speak next, or would you like for me to show that dashboard that I sent to you yesterday?
Let's do the dashboard first. Thanks.
Okay, let me pull that up. We've been working hard to get analyses done for the current PDSA as soon as we can, but as I was telling a program yesterday, different programs may have slightly different wording on similar questions, like, does the client need legal assistance? Does the client have a concern that Lasso could address, or that they does the client have a legal case? Very similar wording on items, but they all come into our system as separate items. And so one may say, does the client have a legal case? And another one may say, does the client require Lasso services? Those are basically the same item. And so then Andrew has to go through some work to make those into one item in our data warehouse where we can access it for analysis. And so that involves a lot of updating of existing files. And so we've got some of those new items taken care of. This is LCDA. LCDA hasn't even seen this dashboard because I just did it yesterday. We have, let me go over to the documentation. There's an outcome measure for Lasso, number of clients referred to Lasso via Unitas out of the number of clients informed about Lasso services. And if we look over here on summary, there's the referred. Their smart aim was 5% of those informed would be referred to Lasso via Unitas. And they have more than that. They have, let me go over to the table. Let's see. They have 2 referrals, which accounts for 18% of their 11 who have been informed about Lasso services. Now, the brochure is a process measure, and that's number of clients who received the Lasso brochure out of the number of clients with at least one visit during the review period. Well, they're just getting started, and the item about the brochure wasn't available to them until very recently. So we don't have any who are indicating that they had received the Lasso brochure. And then the disruptor, they had 4 disruptors, and let me see which one I put on here. Yeah, the refused the referral is the first one. Number of clients who refused a referral out of those who were informed about Lasso services. And there were none that have refused. So that's just a look at what we're doing. And this is an example. We are hoping in the next 2 weeks to get you your dashboard and then start updating within weekly updates after that. Do you have any questions about dashboards? Okay, Connie, I see your note. Thank you. All right. David, would you like to talk next about subjective ratings of active involvement in home visiting?
Yes, I'd be happy to do that. Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm going to revisit a topic that I'm not sure, I say revisit, yeah, I'm not sure we have discussed this in the Learning Collaborative yet, maybe just in small subgroups. So let me sort of start at the beginning here. As part of our current MIECHV evaluation work, we are investigating family engagement, broadly speaking, and then divided within that category, we are looking at initial engagement and home visiting. And I know we've talked about, we've even presented results on some of the findings that were informed by some of your providers, as well as some of your clients about messages. Well, not some of your clients, let me take that back. Those were actually families that were eligible for services but did not engage. We asked them, what are the factors that make home visiting appealing or maybe less appealing? So you've seen two different rounds of data summaries on the feedback we got from providers and non-clients, as we're calling them, on that particular topic. We're now knee deep in the second topic, which is what we're calling and others have called active involvement. Here in a minute, I have sort of an analogy, essentially, by way of definition, or that I'm using as a definition here for what we mean by active involvement. But shorthand here, this would be individuals who've enrolled in your program and then they become more engaged in the program over time. We're really interested in that subject matter. And to be honest with you, although we've looked at family engagement with your help now for well over a decade, that's not a topic we have explored very closely. So this is kind of new territory for us. One of the things we committed to do that I'm not sure we've talked about is looking at unstructured notes from the ETO system to see if it can capture varied levels of family engagement and home visit. And I know I've talked to a few of you about this because that's where the idea came from, that in years past, we have looked at structured fields from ETO and used those to predict retention in your programs, which they do to an extent. But I've heard from a number of you that, boy, if you could only get your hands on what we write in those unstructured notes, that would be an even more telling picture. And what we record there describes engagement a lot more fully than what we might enter in a drop-down list in one of the ETO fields. So we're looking at that now. And we have siphoned out roughly 100, for starters, 100 sets of notes from clients that you have engaged with over the last couple of years. And we've done that for each model separately. So we have 100 clients for Safe Care, we have 100 clients for PAT, and 100 clients for C1. We are only looking at the notes that are recorded in the first 3 sessions. We, early on, with some of you and with the model consultants, asked for advice on what types of notes should we be pulling from ETO. And the answer was different depending on which model we were talking about. So we have followed up on that advice and pulled in those types of notes. So off the top of my head, I'm not going to be able to do this comprehensively, but off the top of my head for C1, we're looking at your progress notes, but we're also looking at your STAR assessments early on in the program. I think those get filled out in the first couple of visits. For the PAT program, we're looking at your progress notes. There's not a ton there, if I recall correctly, but we're also looking at some of your goal setting and goal monitoring notes. And it feels like, or seems like that's where most of the richness of the data has resided. And for Safe Care, I think they use the progress notes maybe more than the other two, so we're heavily reliant on that. And one other area that is escaping me now. All those notes are brought in. We have a team of qualitative data coders who are scouring those notes and then logging specific concepts that we think are related to active involvement. And those concepts we have borrowed from a broader framework called the MODS framework. And you heard us talk about that in the data that we relayed back to you a couple of months ago from the early engagement studies. So MODS framework is looking at internal factors that lead to more in-depth engagement with programs, as well as external factors. So internal factors might be like personal motivation to be involved with home visiting, personal motivations to stay, to utilize the curriculum that they're learning in home visiting. External factors would be things like, well, how convenient is it to participate in home visiting? Do the visits work around their work schedule, around their child's care issues? Other external factors might be capacity of the program. How many spots are available? And if I want it home visiting, what are the likelihood that I might get it? For the notes, we're mostly looking at these internal factors. And we're heavily focused on the relationship between the provider and the client. Now, it's early on in the process, so it's sort of a budding relationship there. Okay, now I'm going to fast forward to the ask for today. We have coded a lot of those notes for PAT and for Safe Care, and we're just now getting started with the C1 lot. We would like to see if the concepts that we've coded from those notes predict retention, which we can get directly out of the ETO system, but we'd also like to know from your providers who worked with those clients, levels of engagement, their subjective impressions of level of engagement of that family. Again, these are all clients that have been seen within the last couple of years. They had to have a recent completed visit. Yeah, I hesitate to tell you this, but I think I have to make it meaningful. Half of the clients that have been coded are what we're terming weak engagers. And so they participated in your program for a period of time and then they dropped out. And that happened early on in the process. The other half are what we're calling strong engagers or stronger engagers. And they participated in the program up to a certain number of completed visits. So they stayed with the program for a significant duration. So it's half and half. We'd like to provide you the client IDs on all those individuals that we've coded. And we're asking providers of those clients to relay back to us the level of engagement of that family. We want to see if the codes from those notes predict those subjective ratings of engagement. So that's the ask. And this is not the finalized version yet. I'm going to put it on the screen though. If you choose to accept this adventure, I can add a little more context here. We will provide you a list of all the client IDs that the providers served from your agency. And we would be asking the providers to bear this definition in mind, this, again, a definition by way of analogy, that we're interested in learning about how families participate in home visiting. We've been measuring family involvement by the number of visits a family completes, but we know that that's not the whole picture. For example, we wouldn't say a student is involved in class just because they show up every day. We know that there are more aspects to involvement. In the same way, we're trying to understand the aspects of involvement in home visiting programs that go beyond just showing up. With that in mind, please rate the following past and current clients on these following scales. So there's a more fleshed out version of this that at the 11th hour here, I couldn't find. So I'm showing you the initial version, but these are now refined questions with scales of engagement. And I think it's a 5-point scale from little to no engagement in our program to the extreme engagement, the maximal engagement in our program. And we're asking the providers to rate that in these 3 categories: the level of parent-child interaction that was observed in your home visiting involvement with the family, the participation in the curriculum discussions, did they ask questions, did they share opinions, and so forth, and then their follow-through on planned activities between visits. So follow through on goals that were set, follow through on the use of skills that they learned in home visit. Those 3 questions. Again, the end game here is to see whether or not these codes that we pulled from those initial notes can predict the responses we get from your providers on these subjective ratings of engagement. So I know I threw a lot at you there. I bet there are a million questions. So please, I'd love to hear them. And I'd love your feedback on the relevance of these questions, like the ability of your providers, you think, to actually rate engagement in these categories. And maybe there's a category we're missing. Not too late. You let us know, we'll add it to the list. I'll let you digest that for a minute and then open forum here.
David, I have a question.
Yes.
So these 3 questions, they're going to be asked, is it going to be a separate, like a touch point in ETO, or because you said there is only a few families that you guys are working on that per, I guess, per side. So that's going to be a separated touch point for a specific family, or that's going to be in the same, what we call the PAT documentation form in our case. So I don't know how it's going to look like.
I'm not ruling out that possibility. I hadn't actually thought of that, Yolanda. So if that makes the process easier somehow, I think we could maybe convince our colleagues at the health department to do that. We had presumed we'd either hand you over paper copies of this that you could rate and then hand back to us, or you could scan them and then email them back, or we would create a questionnaire in REDCap like we have done for past surveys that you've participated in, and they can fill it out there. My preference would be the latter, but only if it's not too inconvenient. So in the email we send to you, that link would be there to that REDCap survey. You would go in, the first thing you would type in is the client ID, which we would have given to you. And then these 3 questions would appear and you'd answer those 3 questions for the individual. You'd hit submit, and then you could do it again, and you could add another function. So that's our data system, and that was our tentative plan. But again, if it's more convenient, you know, especially if they're in the record while they're thinking about the answer to these responses, which I can see happening, yeah, we can certainly talk about that with the health department folks, maybe some of whom are on the call today.
Well, and I'm thinking, I mean, if you have any other idea, for example, you were thinking about the paper form, whatever is easier, but is, you know, if we have a separated touch point for that, that means, you know, that is not only to do, because right now when we do a visit, it's going to be the encounter, the PAT documentation, you know, if we have to review goals, referral tracking. So there is a lot of touch points in every visit. So whatever, you know, can be incorporated, it is, you know, just a few questions. And it's, I guess, for not all the families. You know, I'm thinking ahead about getting, you know, another touch point for every visit that they have to do with families. So I don't know if that makes sense.
So we don't want this for every visit. So let me clarify that this would just be an overall subjective rating of the amount of engagement of that client to date at that point. And if a provider wanted to go back to the record to sort of remind themselves of how engaged that family is, that's certainly allowed. Frankly, I didn't think about that either. We were thinking that these are all recent clients, that there would be some impression in the provider's mind of how engaged that family was, and that they could rate this without even having to look at ETO.
And they wouldn't do it during a visit. They could do it anytime.
Yeah, it wouldn't happen during a visit. That's right. Exactly.
Is this just one time?
One time only. Yes.
Like, yeah. So
yeah. And we're doing 100 clients total, but across the models. And so we try to actually divvy this up. I think, don't quote me on this, but I think the maximum number of clients per provider is 5. So for a given provider, we're asking for these ratings on 5 individuals.
Okay.
At most. And the majority of them, it would be less than that.
Hey, this is Sally. I'm just wondering, have you had a chance to review any of the graduated clients to compare their first 3 visits or so to the ones that you studied and researched, to see how those graduated clients compare to the ones that you looked at that overall tend to drop out, to see what those looked like?
Yeah, it's a great question, Sally. And we had to make there were forks in the road here. We had to make some decisions. So the hardest one was, how do we define weak engagement and strong engagement? And we were a little nervous about going all the way to the extreme of graduation, because we weren't sure we were going to get enough participants to code. We're starting with 100 per model, but our goal originally was 500 per model. We're not going to reach that, by the way, but we still have some hope before this project ends of coding 150 per program. And so for some models, 150 graduates that were recent was not attainable. And so we set our definition, we set the bar lower on strong engagement. So some of those are graduates, but not all of them. All of them have participated for a significant duration.
David, this is Susan. Just wondering what the timeline looks like. Like, when would you roll this out? How long would the the nurses have or the providers have to complete it? And then my other question was how many per nurse? And I think you said, or how many per provider? And I think you said 5. Is that correct?
Yeah, we tried to keep it at a maximum of 5 per provider. There might be 1 or 2 exceptions there, give or take 1 or 2 clients. In terms of time frame, we were hoping to start submitting client IDs to agencies next month for Safe Care and PAT because those codes are completed. And we would like those back. Yeah, we can negotiate here, but within, a month, maybe a month and a half, we'd like to have those data by this summer so that we can start to see whether or not those codes actually predict these subjective ratings. C1 is further behind, so we're just now starting the process of coding those notes. We have the list of IDs now that I think about it. So actually I take it back. We could be sending those out at the same time.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we're still in March, right? Yes. So April is the target date. And I think we could get those to you mid-month for the first 100 where we siphoned off these notes.
David, I also have
I've
a
dropped a
question.
little poll into the meeting asking which you prefer for the format of this survey. So if everyone would complete the poll I just made available, I'll leave it up for just a couple of minutes.
RedCap is that program that we use often for our surveys with you all. So you often have been on these Zoom calls with us, and on the front end, we've asked you to fill out a survey. That's RedCap.
I don't think the parent educators have access to that.
We can make a public link available
Okay.
to them. So that's no problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It would just be like a link that came to them by email that they could click.
Okay. I have a question regarding, so you mentioned that you're rating the engagement for like the first 3 sessions. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So for Safe Care, our first 4 visits are usually intake. And so there's no curriculum being provided until after the intake process. So does that affect their response for question 1, well, and 2?
No, that's a great question, Stacy. So we want to know at present time, how would you rate this family on these levels of engagement? We're only looking at the first 3 visits to code information that we think may predict those responses. But we know that, clearly the first 3 visits do not tell the whole story. We're hopeful that we can get some early indications of who's going to be an active involver and who's not.
Got it. Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay, everybody has voted and it's an even split for the favorite. Oh, so it's almost an even split. Somebody just got in. 8 out of 17 prefer ETO, 7 out of 17 prefer RedCap, and 2 people preferred paper forms to complete, scan, and email back. So it's neck and neck on ETO and RedCap.
Is there, I can't see everybody. Is anybody like any of our EPIs on, like Chris?
Yeah.
Or John?
Hey, Sue.
Okay, so would it be more work to actually put it into a touch point than to just let OU do a RedCap?
I don't think it'd be tremendous work at all. My
Okay.
opinion is it might help out since you are linking it to the responses on the other touch points in ETO, that it might be cleaner on that end. So no, we'd be more than happy to create this if that was what was decided. No problem at all.
Okay, that was just my clarifying question, because I thought if it's going to be more work to put it into ETO, I personally voted for RedCap. I'm sharing my vote with everyone else. But if it wouldn't be a lot of extra work, Danielle, then can I change my vote to ETO?
Yes, you may. Yeah, and thank you, Danielle. Yeah, I did not want
So
to.
that now it's 9-6 for ETO.
Great feedback. I will email you. I'm going to find the final version of these questions and then I'll email the group. And again, not too late to get your feedback on the wording and your impressions of the ability of providers to rate these categories. We'll keep that open for maybe 2 more weeks, and then we'll shoot to send this out to your providers. Actually, that's something I can use feedback on. Would it be best to send it to the supervisors and then have you disseminate to providers?
Dr. Bart, this is Patty. I think the project it sounds really nice. I think it can be relevant for us if we get some of this information that could help us understand a little more retention. So I think it's, you know, pretty doable. To me, if it's an ETO, first I was thinking maybe they're gonna think it's one more thing, it's another touch point. So that's why I voted for, I'm thinking it's just a separate thing, a one-time thing, and you don't see it, then
Yeah.
have an ETO. But I guess, I mean, it could, either way, I think it's fine. I was even envisioning maybe during supervision, the person can say, hey, because if it's just a drop-down box, it's not that they're gonna have to write anything. I think that they'll be more willing, and if it's a client that they have right now, it will not take too long to complete those.
Great to hear. Okay. Yeah, and I'm totally agnostic about which system we use. If PTO is preferred and Danielle is willing, then we can go that route.
And Christine's been great. She got one new item for a program they realized they needed overnight. So, okay, David, thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Just one final thought here.
Okay.
Where this work is headed. You know, we want to be able to predict. We want to see if this predicts, right? The information that you're collecting in those first 3 visits. Does it predict? We will be looking at these structured fields too, the ones that we haven't explored previously that we already know predict retention. We want to see how well do those predict these subjective ratings of engagement. And then we'll layer on top of that the codes that have been developed from the notes and see if it adds any prediction to the models. In game here is, could we potentially create an alert system to the provider that, hey, you have a potential weak engager here, and we know this because of X, Y, and Z. The other thing it may lead to that we anticipate is there may be certain aspects of what we're coding that predict engagement better than other aspects. And those aspects, maybe we want to create some structured fields for in ETO. So it currently is only being captured in a note, but if it's really strongly predicting engagement, maybe we ought to create a drop-down list for that so that it's easier to track, easier for providers to see and work with. So those are just 2 takeaways we hope is where we end up eventually, but we'll find out.
All right. Thank you. Let me share my screen again.
I have one more comment. I'm sorry.
Sure, go
Like,
ahead.
just in regards to what Dr. Bard had just said, like, it makes me think about maybe for a progress note, like if there is a little, or even on the encounter form when we document, maybe if there is a question that has like a scale of 0 to 5 every time, like what was their level of engagement during that session? And then that could be something that could be tracked eventually as well too, just as a quick, you know, because that's just one thing on a like 0 to 5 click, you know. I think that would be interesting to add, just like to maybe an encounter form or something like that eventually.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. C1 is already doing that. And they have a scale that they've been tracking for ages. It does predict their retention. We've looked at that before. So great idea.
All right, thank you. All right, in just a few minutes, Kayla's going to show you something on Unitas. And so we would like everyone who has Unitas access, the home visiting folks particularly, if you would log into Unitas now so that when we turn it over to Kayla, she can lead you through something that we hope will make your referral life easier. Let's talk for just a few minutes about how things are going with your current PDSA. Tulsa C1 and PCCT are doing Sooner Start as their focus at the moment. Stacy, Lena, would you like to talk about how it's going for you?
Hi.
Hi, Lena. I was
Hi.
afraid I froze up there for just a second.
No, sorry. I'm in a different room, but
Trying to remember my password for Unitas.
yeah, that's I was
Understand
thinking
that.
that too. I like have two. Like, which one is it? I mean, as far as I know, things are going pretty well. I know Stacy has had to send a couple of emails about questions about within Unitas and where everything is, but we've gotten feedback from everybody, and there's like a I don't know, Stacy might help me with what it's called, like a I can't think right now what it's called, like a way to get to where it is with that information. But as far as I know, for my team,
Oh, like a flow chart.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so there's just been some confusion on how to get to that referral. And so I had one of my providers, she did a Zoom with you guys last week, and so she's gonna go over that with me, and then we'll present that to the rest of the team, like create a flow chart for that and present it to our team next week.
That's great. And that's a good reminder for everyone that if you need refresher on anything, Kayla's available all the time. She's going to be getting, I've pushed her webpage where you can sign up for appointments. That's going to be changing, and I'll be sure to get that out to everybody when that changes. All right. Thank you. Anybody from Tulsa? I don't know if Tulsa C1 is here today. All right, let's go on to Cap Tulsa. Have you been screening clients for PCAP?
Good morning, everybody. Yeah, so we have been using the touch point, the PCAP touch point to offer the families the information and the brochure and talk about PCAP. So we have been doing using for like a referral, our monthly referral, but we haven't had any referrals yet.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good. I'm glad it's, underway though, and it may be a rare event to have a referral, but we're really excited for you to be working on that. Now, how's everybody else doing on Lasso? Could you just jump in and give me a little update on how your Lasso referrals are going?
Hi, I'll
Hi,
talk for
Sarah.
C1. I'm not sure why my coloring is looking so weird like that on my computer. There it goes. Things have been going fine for us so far. I haven't really had a lot of feedback of any issues that we've had, and if we have, there's just been a few little things here and there that we've been able to easily take care of. So no issues with Unitas. I think our main thing was just making sure that our nurses are getting the touch point put into ETO. I think that was our big thing at our last meeting. But otherwise things have been fine with ours.
Yes. All right. Very good. Yeah. As we're figuring out, when we're doing our analyses on our end, we get weekly updates on ETO data. And so we might be in between we might not have all of your completely up-to-date data, but so it's hard for us to figure out what to do on a dashboard if there's no data showing us what it looks like. And so your analyst could be reaching out to you by email and asking for a quick Zoom to go over dashboards and to ask questions. And so if the analysts need to do that, they can feel free to contact you and ask for a few minutes. Anyone else with Lasso referrals you'd like to give us an update? Thank you, Sarah. All right. Well, I guess everything's going all right. Something that we noticed that is happening too frequently is that a referral is sent either to or from the wrong organization. Pilar had told me last week that out of 44 referrals she had received for Lasso since January 1st, a quarter of them needed corrections. And so that's a lot of emails outside of Unitas that were required because people also didn't seem to be receiving Pilar's note messages inside of Unitas. And there's something that even I had misunderstood or forgotten about the need to use different organization names in Unitas at different phases of the innovation project. So now I'd like to turn it over to Tabitha to talk about that.
Thanks so much, Lisa. And I apologize, all my camera is off. I'm on vacation and did not bring my webcam, but happy to be here with you all this morning. So in this scenario, it has two situations, and the reference point is where you are in your PDSAs or your CQI work. So the first situation is if you have not had a PDSA focused on one of our 3 referral community partners. Or in other words, the site is going to be your PDSA 3, and PDSA 3 is not yet started. Again, that's going to start in mid-May. This is what you're going to do. For Sooner Start, you should use their online portal. We have the web link here, or you can call the child's local health department in their county and ask for Sooner Start. So those are the 2 previous referral pathways you can utilize that were available prior to Unitas. If it's a referral to LASSO, you can use their online portal. Again, that link is provided, or a number to call. And if it's PCAP, you can use their online form or a number to call. All of these are available in brochures. We're happy to share with you and re-disseminate if your team would like those. But the key being that if you have your third partner for PDSA 3, you should be using these prior methods before Unitas to make those referrals. Now, if you have had a PDSA focused on this site, meaning you focused on them during our first action phase, PDSA 1, or you're currently focusing on them here in PDSA 2, or by the time we are past mid-May, meaning PDSA 3 has started, you should be using Unitas and specifically using the innovation referral pages. Those are listed again here for you, but the key indicator is that the words innovation grant should always be present in the name of the organization. In just a moment, we're going to pass the mic to Kayla Woodbury, our fairy godmother, who's going to talk through how to favorite these within Unitas to reduce the possibility of errors. And then last, the kicker is that regardless of if you're using a previous referral method, a website or phone number, or if you're able to use Unitas, you need to document all referrals in ETO so that we're able to pair the data. Any questions, comments, concerns about this reminder?
I guess in that case, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Pilar.
I guess I totally had misunderstood this as well, because I had instructed anyone before their PDSA had started to just email me their referral, and I was taking it and working it as under the innovation grant model. If they had gone through the online portal or called the 888 number, many of them might have been rooted out, or possibly not receive services due to lack of resources. When within the grant model, they are assigned an attorney, so that would not happen. And they get additional like attention to be able to retain the client versus the regular portal or calling the 888 number. I don't know if that
Thank you, Pilar, for that insight. And I'll let David hop in with his thoughts. I'm curious what he would say to that. But our goal with this recommendation and these differences and how you make the referral is we're trying to investigate the effect using this new innovation, using Unitas has on the referral journey. So we need to compare it to what would have happened before this project ever started. David, would you have anything to say about if for LASSO it should be going through these previous methods or if it should be going directly to Pilar?
I'm not sure I fully understand. Can you give me an example, Pilar, of the ones I'm worried about?
Right. So if home visiting partner, let's say PCAP, no, not PCAP, PCCT, were to send a referral prior to the PDSA period, their PDSA period starting, they would have to refer them to legal aid to apply online or the 800 number. I would never see that referral, and they would be handled like somebody walking in off the street, not linked to this grant. And they run the high risk of being sent a letter saying, we do not have an attorney for you, basically, to be able to assist you at this time, because they would not run through this, you have an assigned attorney to work with you. So they also would be possibly screened out for being too high with their income or other things that normally they run across, which we don't do that through this grant.
I guess I'm still not quite following why they wouldn't potentially have an attorney assigned. So if they went through the traditional approach of making a referral, I get that they'd be put into potentially a longer work queue, right? But there's still the hope that that request would be served, or would it not?
Yes, it would be, but they have higher probabilities of being screened out. And with the grant, they have far less potential disruptors in our end, as far as we don't look at their income, and they have an attorney that I can assign it to that I know will take the case, unless there's a conflict of interest or something beyond their control.
Now, I know you give some preference to older clients, right?
Yes, those are almost
in the
always
regular
right.
route.
Right.
So someone might be screened out because of age that wouldn't happen if they were going through the grant.
Right. I just wanted to let you know that I did mess up then at that end, because I was telling people to just email me their referral instead of directing them to apply outside of the grant.
I see.
Pilar, I think we did that in some cases, like we hadn't started the PDSA for LASSO, and you had mentioned that, and we had sent you like emails, but it was more asking like, do you think this family will qualify? And then you would let us know, and then we would send them through to you. But that was before we had started our PDSA, which is what I'm understanding as well.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to mull this one over. I don't know if I want to give an answer yet, because I'm not quite sure what the answer is. But, the original intent was, unless a program had already established a PDSA to use Unitas for their LASSO referrals, then they would use traditional approaches. If we've had some come through before the PDSA started, before the LASSO PDSA started, well, I'll have to think about what impact that'll have on the eventual analysis.
Pilar, would you write us an email just sort of summarizing, David, me, and Tabitha, just sort of summarizing what you've said, and so that'll give us something to keep us accountable to get back to everybody about this issue. It's kind of a moot point now, because I think is there just one organization? Is Cap Tulsa the only organization that has not done LASSO, or Cap Tulsa, have you done LASSO?
There is still one organization who hasn't done LASSO. I'm not sure who it is, but there's one.
I think
we did LASSO. We haven't done Sooner Start.
You haven't done Sooner Start. Okay, then
I think everybody has done.
I think everybody's done.
Okay.
I think it's a moot point now. So, But yeah, for us to think about for the analyses, it may just need to be an asterisk on our analyses. So yeah, Pilar, if you'll just send us an email about that. Now everybody with LASSO has had a PDSA or is having one now. So you'll just look for these innovation grant organizations like Legal Aid Services of Oklahoma Innovation Grant when you do your referral in Unitas.
And just to add, in case this is a concern or a thought for our PCAP liaison, even though you might not know about the referral, we on the evaluation team will still know because it will be an ETO. So that is our goal of comparing pre-innovation to use of Unitas.
Thank you for that clarification, Tabitha. Did anybody have any other comments or questions about what Tabitha has presented here? All right. This is just a summary of kind of what some other things. This is just sort of a summary of what we just talked about. So we'll get you these slides.
We'll also add that we do have that resource. In addition to Kayla helping us shortly, we do have this resource that if you are not sure, we have that Innovation Grant Services and Unitas list. That is a document that's been circulated a few times, but please make sure your staff have these available so that we are not missing data.
Yeah, I think I sent that. Thank you, Tabitha. I think I just sent that out with an email about a week or so ago when I sent out news, tips, and reminders. I think it was attached to that. So it just gives all the different kinds of names that you might see for organizations, but specifying the one that you're going to need to use to make a referral to a particular member of our innovation grant. So if Tabitha, if you want to talk about this slide.
Sure. So we mentioned before, understandably, because it's confusing to use a new system, and there are so many available Unitas pages within Unitas. But if you are aware that anyone in your staff has received an email asking them to recall a referral and place it again to the right page, or if you think that's possible, we really want to encourage you to schedule a training meeting with Kayla. She's available for that, especially as you have new users onboarded, or again, if you've had someone receive that recall email, Kayla can meet with you and ensure your staff are able to favorite the correct sites so that it's easier to find them quickly and correctly. But now we're going to pass it over to Kayla, who's going to show that for supervisors, and we want you to do that on your end on your Unitas page, which is why we asked you to log in.
Thank you, Tabitha, and good morning, everyone. I will make this super quick. Just want to reiterate, there's more than one way to favorite, but I'm going to show you probably the easiest way right now. On your homepage, when you're logged in, you're going to click on the My Network tab. And once you see the information pop up the way it is with the radius around your organization address and then the programs over here, in the search bar right here, I want you to start typing in Innovation Grant, because the distinction that we made at the very beginning of this process is that we wanted to add Innovation Grant to all of the programs so that they would be easy to find. So, and remember again, this is our demo environment. So it says here that we have 5 resources that have Innovation Grant in the title. So what I'm going to do is just go down and favorite them. So when you click that star blue, then you get a green ribbon across the top that says favorite successfully created. So I'll just go through really quickly and click all of these and make sure that I favorite them. And you'll get that nice green ribbon across the top each time. And so I favorited all 5 of those that have the Innovation Grant in their profile. You all should have more than that. Now, here's the thing. So the next time that we make a referral for a client, and I'll just go through really quickly, and I will select, let's see, home visiting. So the next time that I make a referral for a client, then it should be that if I type Innovation Grant here, then do you see where it is? Because I typed in innovation grant, this is the first option that pops up. So then we know that we're sending it to the correct naming convention for the program. And you can also, if you're in a referral and you have not favorited it yet on the My Network tab, then you can also favorite it here on this page. And I know that's really quick, but I know we're almost at time. So again, you can favorite programs from the My Network tab, or you can favorite it while you're creating the referral. And again, as Tabitha and Lisa mentioned, I'm more than happy to set up a separate training and walk you through this process, and you share your screen and we walk through adding those favorite programs for your own separate organization. So does anybody have any questions?
Yes, can you show us, Kayla, the one that you have for Soon Start, for Lasso, and Pickup? Because I found two for Lasso.
Correct.
And one is Innovation Grant provided by Legal Aid Services Oklahoma, and the other one says,
It's a really lengthy name, but it says McVie, right?
yeah, this one say, the
Yeah.
other one say Legal Aid Service of Oklahoma, MIECHV Home Visiting Partnership, Grant Innovations.
Okay, so I'm actually in the demo environment, so I can't show that, but the correct one, and if someone could help me out and put this in the chat, I believe it's Legal Aid Services of Oklahoma Innovation Grant. That's the one that you need to favorite, because the second one with the McVie Home Partnership Program, that was prior to, once we made the decision to do the innovation grant, and we're actually working on closing that out. But in the meantime, it is Legal Aid Services of Oklahoma Innovation Grant. That's the one that we need to be favoriting. Does that make sense to everyone?
There is no, like,
Could we have her show her screen?
There's one that say Innovation Grant, and then it doesn't say, it is provided by Legal Aid, and the other.
Can you share your screen, Ariana?
Sure. Okay, so when I filtered, I have 9 results.
Right.
So let's find that one.
So that's the one that you should be clicking right there. It's Innovation Grant at the top, and then it says Legal Aid Services of Oklahoma Innovation Grant. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so which one will be for Pickup?
That one that you were on right there.
Right there.
Mm-hmm. So if you click that star.
Okay, and then the other one will be Sooner Start.
Sooner Start was back up at the, if you scroll all the way back up to the top, Sooner Start was at the very, yeah.
Oh, this one. Okay. Okay, got it.
All right. So no problem. And
yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think that was probably helpful for everyone. Other questions for Kayla real quick? Okay, Kayla, did you have something else you wanted to say as we wind up?
No, just if I know that there are a few organizations that have reached out to me. They started out sending Sooner Start referrals, but now they're sending Lasso referrals. If you need help walking through that process, because there's a few nuances that are different, then again, Lisa's already dropped my scheduling link in the chat. Please feel free to set up some time. I'd be happy to walk you through that as well.
All right, great. Thank you so much. David or Tabitha, is there anything you'd like to say in our last minute?
No, not here.
Tabitha?
But thank you all so much for letting us review this. And as always, reach out to Kayla. We appreciate your time.
And you can also reach out to us and your liaisons. And so we have all these resources available to you. And we know we've thrown a lot at you, and sometimes it's hard to sort through. And so we're just here to help you any way we can. And thank you so much for your time. And thanks for helping make this was a great meeting. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.